Assembly Bill 2337 by Assemblymember Burke, an act relating to employment.
Ms. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Nationwide, women lose nearly 8 million days of paid work because of violence inflicted by their partners. In California, the Legal Aid Society Employment Law Center found that 40% of intimate partner violence survivors reported being fired or fearing termination due to intimate partner violence. AB 2237 requires employers to inform their employees in writing of their rights guaranteed under existing law. These protections include freedom from discrimination, retaliation, and guarantees reasonable accommodation to remain employed. We must do our part to empower vulnerable survivors in the workplace. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote, ayes 66, no 0. Measure passes. File item 78, AB 2532. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2532 by Assemblymember David Chu and others, an act relating to employment services.
Mr. Chu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, AB 2532 will repeal two sections of state employment law that run afoul of federal law. In 1993, during an anti-immigrant moment in our state's history leading up to the passage of Proposition 187, this legislature passed a law that required employment service providers to verify a person's immigration status before providing services, as well as to post notices that these are services only available to U.S. citizens. Federal law, the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986, otherwise known as IRCA, preempts state law that addresses the employment of immigrants. In 2012, in Arizona versus U.S., the U.S. Supreme Court held that IRCA provided a comprehensive framework to address the employment of immigrants. The repeal of this section will not impact federal requirements that an employee must indicate eligibility to work in our country, nor the duty of employers to check the work authorization of new hires. Given federal law, these state law provisions are not only causing confusion and additional costs for businesses and employer service providers, but are also intimidating immigrant workers. And with that, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote, ayes 47, noes 15. Measure passes. File items 82, 84, and 86 pass and retain. Moving to file item 87. That's ACR 175. Clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 175 by Assemblymember Ashajian and others, relative to Viral Hepatitis Awareness Day.
Mr. Ashajian on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to present ACR 175, which will declare today, May 19, 2016, as Viral Hepatitis Awareness Day. This resolution was brought to my attention by the San Luis Obispo Hep C Project, a nonprofit organization that is working hard to increase awareness regarding the risk associated with hepatitis infection. In the United States, there are more than 5 million people living with hepatitis B and C. It is estimated that almost 350,000 Californians have hepatitis B and 750,000 Californians have hepatitis C and do not know that they are infected. These individuals are at high risk of severe liver disease, liver cancer, and liver failure. Hepatitis B and C kills more people in California than anywhere else in the United States. Although prevention and treatment of hepatitis B and C is possible, many people at risk are affected by these conditions are neither tested nor treated due to a lack of awareness. ACR 175 will help educate Californians about the risk of viral hepatitis and the need to get tested by declaring May 19, 2016 as Viral Hepatitis Awareness Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashajian. Seeing no discussion or debate on the resolution, Mr. Ashajian, would you like co-authors?
I respectfully ask for an aye vote, and I also ask for the first roll to be open for co-authors. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashajian. With that, clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is for co-authors on the resolution. For co-authors on ACR 175, clerk will close the roll. There are 72 co-authors added. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. File items 88 through 95 pass and retain. We're moving to file item 96. That's AB 1757. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1757 by Assemblymember Waldron, an act relating to transit.
Ms. Waldron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assembly Bill 1757 is a district bill that will ensure parity among transportation and regional agencies in Southern California with regard to Board of Directors compensation levels. North County Transit District is a board that was set up by state statute in 1988, and it's comprised of city council members and one county supervisor serving that district and representing their cities and the county. North County Transit District, however, is different from all of its other regional partners, which includes the Metropolitan Transit District, which serves the southern part of San Diego County. So it's basically a sister organization. The Los Angeles Transit District, the San Diego Association of Governments, as well as the Regional Solid Waste Association of San Diego. And it's different from those in the fact that it only receives half of the compensation level at $75 a meeting for those who serve, and has remained unchanged since 1988. Many of the board members must travel and take time away from their full-time jobs to participate on the public's behalf, sometimes up to an hour or more of commuting with 4 to 5 hours at the meeting. This bill simply would make compensation levels per meeting commensurate with all of its regional partners and pass local government and appropriations committees with no opposition, and it has no additional state costs. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Waldron. Seeing no discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 53, noes 1. Measure passes. File item 97, AB 1761. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1761 by Assemblymember Weber and others, an act relating to human trafficking.
Dr. Weber.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, this morning I rise to present to you AB 1761, which creates an affirmative defense for human trafficking victims. Currently, human trafficking victims are often treated as criminal with respect to the crimes that traffickers force them to commit. Human trafficking is a unique crime in that traffickers often benefit from having their victims commit illegal acts and may force children and adults to commit a diverse range of crimes. AB 1761 creates a defense for human trafficking victims to use against a charge of a nonviolent crime. This affirmative defense is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It has to be proven by the defense in the court of law that the victim indeed committed the crime because they were either a victim of human trafficking at the time of the offense, they were coerced, or they had a reasonable fear of harm. By creating a new affirmative defense for human trafficking victims, we are recognizing the traumatic effect of the emotional, mental, and physical abuse trafficking victims endure at the hands of their traffickers. California would be joining 37 other states who have an affirmative defense for human trafficking. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Dr. Weber. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote. Who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 65, noes 0. Measure passes. File item 98, pass and retain. Moving to file item 99, that's AB 1840. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1840 by Assemblymember Gibson, an act relating to public employment.
Mr. Gibson, you may open.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. Assembly Bill 1840 seeks to improve the future of young people whose lives have been set back by homelessness or incarceration. Current law provides preference to former youth when hiring for student, assistance, and intern positions under California state agencies. This has been a cost-effective, meaningful way in which our state provides on-the-job training to underserved members of our community. AB 1840 expands on this principle by offering the same preference to current former homeless youth as well as those who've been formerly incarcerated. California State Library study surveys homeless youth found that 90% believes a career opportunity is their best chance of escaping homelessness. In addition, a study on youth incarceration found that youth who were able to gain a job within 6 months are less likely to reoffend within that year. This bill serves to encourage youth who are committed to bettering themselves and will improve their situation by positioning themselves to be hired as a student assistant and intern in our state agencies. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 54, noes 11. Measure passes. File items 100 through 102 pass and retain. Moving to file item 103, AB 2025. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2025 by Assemblymember Gonzalez and others, an act relating to professions and vocations.
Ms. Gonzalez, you may open.
AB 2025 will amend the Barbering and Cosmetology Act to improve language access and increase labor rights education for nail salon business owners and licensed workers. The primary goal of AB 2025 is to use the existing salon business license and curriculum for workers as an opportunity to increase the knowledge of basic labor laws for both owners and workers. It also has provisions to increase language access, requiring written materials for workers and owners by the board that issues licenses to be offered or made available in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. California has many strong labor standards, but part of enforcing those laws is making sure workers know their rights and that businesses are aware of their obligations. This bill has received bipartisan support, and I worked closely with this on my co-author, Senator Janet Nguyen. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Chu, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just rise in strong support of this bill. Having worked closely with the nail salon industry over the years, we all know the many challenges that our workers, particularly our immigrant workers, face in that scenario. And certainly what this bill is trying to do is ensure that people know their rights despite any language issues and are able to be safe in their workplaces. And with that, I respectfully also ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no additional discussion or debate on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 62, noes 2. Measure passes. File items 104 through 106 pass and retain. File item 107, AB 2320. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2320 by Assemblymember Calderon and others, an act relating to unmanned aircraft systems.
Mr. Calderon, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 2320 is a bill I'm proud to join author with my colleague from Campbell, and this bill offers a common-sense approach to our state's unmanned aircraft regulations, commonly referred to as UAS or drones, by clarifying that it is unlawful to operate a drone in the conduct of certain activities already unlawful in California. Some examples include prohibiting a drone from disrupting an emergency response activities or delivering contraband to a prison or jail. The FAA is currently in the process of developing rules that are intended to safely integrate small unmanned aircraft systems into the National Airspace System, and following issuance of a notice of proposed rulemaking and public comment period, these new regulations are expected to be released later this year or in 2017. While the FAA is developing the small unmanned aircraft system rules, California has a responsibility to ensure the safety of our citizens and at the same time help foster an industry that can provide a wide range of useful applications. Thank you, and I respectfully request an aye vote on the measure.
Mr. Rodriguez, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of AB 2320. Drone technology has the potential to bring an entire emergency response to a standstill. The health and safety of the public is threatened any time a first responder is stopped from acting quickly. I urge an aye vote on 2320.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Seeing no additional discussion or debate, Mr. Calderon, you may close if you wish.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. And I will say that we did take the amendments in local government getting rid of the preemption so that the California League of Cities are no longer in opposition, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
With that, the clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 70, no 0. Measure passes. File item 108 passed and retained. We are going to take up file item 109. That's AB 2442. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2442 by Assemblymember Holden, an act relating to housing.
Mr. Holden, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Assembly Bill 2442 allows multiple density bonuses to be obtained by a housing developer if the developer agrees to set aside 10% of the units for former foster youth, disabled veterans, or formerly homeless individuals. In urban and suburban areas, providing an affordable housing option to these populations can be paired with available incentives to build density housing. This is a minor expansion of existing local incentive programs to provide more people of vulnerable populations available or developing housing options. AB 2442 originated from my district. With this bill, we look to relieve the affordable housing crisis in my community and across the state. I respectfully request your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote, desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 55, noes 5. Measure passes. File item 110, pass and retain. File item 111, AB 2546. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2546 by Assemblymember Calderon, an act relating to people instruction.
Mr. Calderon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 2546 will require the Instructional Quality Commission to include financial literacy in 6 different grade levels during its next curriculum framework update. The lack of financial literacy negatively impacts thousands of Californians across our state. It hurts young people entering the labor market, young people who lack a clear understanding of basic financial concepts and are more likely to rely on high-cost methods of borrowing. This behavior not only affects the ability to budget for and attend college, but also undermines future home ownership. Financial literacy also hinders adults and their hopes for retirement. Without a base knowledge of financial tools, young adults are also less likely to invest into retirement plans. Early this year, I chaired a joint informational hearing on the issue of financial literacy, and during this hearing, we heard testimony that an early introduction to financial concepts and repetition of those lessons yield a deeper understanding. As a result, students who had financial education courses early and more often had higher rates of savings and were less likely to rely on high-cost methods borrowing. AB 2546 will require the addition of 2 courses of age-appropriate financial education in kindergarten through 5th grade, 2 courses in middle school, and 2 courses in high school. This bill will help address this growing problem and provide students the tools they need to compete in a changing economy, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher, you are recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, members, I want to rise in strong support of this bill today. We saw this in appropriations. I do think it's very important that throughout a child's education that we have consistent education in financial literacy, and as the author pointed out, studies have shown how much this actually helps students as they prepare for adult life, and also I think is an important tool in helping bring people out of poverty. So I'd ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Seeing no additional discussion or debate, Mr. Calderon, you may close if you wish.
I thank my colleague, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who wish to vote. All members vote who wish to vote. All members vote who wish to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 56, noes 6. Measure passes. Members, our final guest with us today, Mr. Dodd. You are recognized for your guest introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to welcome the 5th grade class from Coyote. Valley Elementary School in Lake County. Members, you'll recall that Lake County was beset by one of the major fires last summer. This is a community that is resilient. They're fantastic, and I'm so happy that they're here visiting the Capitol today. Won't you join me in welcoming the 5th grade class of Coyote Valley Elementary School.
File item 113, pass and retain. File item 114, AB 1662. The clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1662 by Assemblymember Chow, an act relating to aviation.
Mr. Chow, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 1662 protects people from hit-and-run drone accidents by requiring drone operators to remain at the scene of the accident and provide their name, address, and a valid ID to the victim and also to the police. Drones are becoming more prevalent and are used for a wide range of purposes, from recreation, agriculture, to viewing traffic congestion or storms. The FAA estimates that about 1 million drones were sold just during this past holiday season alone. With the increasing use of drones, we are seeing more drone accidents. Under California law, motor vehicle drivers are required to stop and provide ID and contact information if they are involved in a vehicle accident that causes injury or property damage. Any driver who flees the scene of an accident may be charged with a misdemeanor if the accident involves property damage, or a felony if the accident involves personal injury. AB 1662 applies the vehicle hit-and-run laws to drones, since these drones are just as capable as cars of causing personal injury and property damage when they fall out of the sky or get too close to people. The bill has strong bipartisan support, and I strongly urge for your aye vote.
Mr. Obernolte, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I think this is a good bill. It's generally supportable. However, I have a concern that I'd like to raise. And my concern is that the bill does not include a definition of what constitutes property damage. Without a definition, that means that any damage, any material damage, is property damage. So let me explain what that means by illustrating a hypothetical story. So let's assume, for the sake of argument, that a drone operator is flying a drone. That drone runs low on battery. It enters low power mode, and it descends into a yard on private property. The drone operator goes to retrieve the drone, which is undamaged, and notices that in its descent, the drone has knocked a single leaf off of a bush. So is that property damage, and is this an accident? Under this bill, as currently worded, it is. And that operator would be required to leave a statement describing the circumstances of the accident at the scene of the property, and also to notify the local police department. So I'd like to suggest that the bill include a definition of property damage, and further to suggest that the definition include a floor of property damage to prevent ridiculous situations like the one I just illustrated from becoming a reality. Because, colleagues, I'm concerned that if we do not modify the bill, that we are going to be turning our normal law-abiding citizens into criminals. So I'd like to encourage the author to consider amending that bill as it moves forward. I'll be abstaining on this bill today, but I think otherwise the bill is supportable.
Thank you, Mr. Obernolte. See no additional discussion or debate. Mr. Chow, you may close.
I'll be very happy to look into the definition again one more time. With that, I urge for aye vote.
And with that, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 57, noes 1. Measure passes. File item 115, AB 2533. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2533 by Assemblymember Santiago, an act relating to public safety officers.
Mr. Santiago.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, AB 2533 would require 3 business days' notice to be given to a public safety officer before an agency releases any audio or video of the officer recorded by the officer. This measure updates current law to be more appropriate to today's digital age, while continuing to provide an avenue of safety for officers who may be receiving threats. I respectfully ask for aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 59, noes 1. Measure passes. File item 116, pass and retain. File item 117, ACR 179 by Mr. Cooley. Clerk will read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 179 by Assemblymember Cooley relative to Foster Care Month.
Mr. Cooley on the resolution.
Colleagues, I am pleased today to represent ACR 179, which will designate the month of May as Foster Care Month. I have shared on prior occasions that two of my grandchildren come through the Sacramento County foster care system, as my oldest son and his wife determined that they have love to share. There is a great need in our foster care system statewide. We have 66,000 plus kids in the foster care system in the state of California. More than 33,000 kids in the foster care system here in Sacramento County. Kids enter this system because they face abuse, neglect, and it leaves enduring effects. It looks sort of like post-traumatic stress for these kids who've been in hard situations. While the goal of the foster care system is to reunify kids with their family, that does not always happen. So they end up with relative caregivers, foster parents, group homes. In this body, each May, we dedicate the month of May as Foster Care Month to remember these very vulnerable children, to keep them in our foreground of our thinking as we work on budgetary and other matters, and to look for ways to strengthen the process so that as the extended family of Californians, we support the upbringing and the well-being of these children. This afternoon, the Select Committee on Foster Care will be convening. We'll be focusing on older kids as they transition out of the system, job training, the particular needs they have to transition into independent lives, so they are less prone to be beset by problems of housing, access to jobs, mental health, drug and other sorts of dysfunctions. So it's an honor to bring ACR 179 here today, and I request that the first roll in due course be open for co-authors.
Thank you, Ms. Cooley. Mr. Gibson, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. I want to thank the author for bringing ACR 179 to this body today to recognize May 2016 as Foster Care Month. In the state of California, there are approximately 66,000 children living in foster care today. The county that I represent, Los Angeles County, represents 22,000 children in foster care, the largest number of children in foster care among California's counties. This month is reserved to recognize foster parents, family members, child welfare professionals, and others to help our children in foster care. It is important to recognize these children and youth to ensure that they have the same opportunities growing up as every other child in California. It is also important to recognize the foster families that take these youth into their homes and provide them with a loving and stable home. Members, it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm happy today that we are raising and also a village, and I respectfully ask for your support on ACR 179. Thank the author for bringing this before our floor today.
Thank you, Ms. Gibson. Ms. Irwin, you are recognized.
I rise in support of ACR 179 to bring awareness to Foster Care Month and advocate for those in the foster care system. This legislature has passed important legislation aimed to improve the foster care system, but there is a lot more work to be done. I have roughly 1,100 foster children in my district, and they deserve the best possible chance to succeed. While many local agencies and family centers provide services to these children, we must make sure that California's continuum of care model helps them receive what they need to feel supported and lead healthy lives. I urge your aye vote on ACR 179.
Thank you, Ms. Irwin. Seeing no additional discussion on the resolution, Mr. Cooley, you may close.
Colleagues, I actually believe it was Abraham Lincoln, who adorns our chamber, who said, "No person stands so tall as when they stoop to help a child." That is the object of this measure, to make sure that these children remain in the forefront of our awareness as we craft public programs. I thank you for your support, and I do ask the first roll to be open for co-authors.
Thank you, Ms. Cooley. With that, clerk will open the roll. Members, this is for co-authors. This is co-authors on the resolution. Members, for ACR 179. Clerk will close the roll. There are 71 co-authors added without objection. We may take a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. File item 118, that's H.R. 51. Clerk will read.
House Resolution 51 by Assemblymember Quirk relative to Compost Awareness Week.
Dr. Quirk, you may open.
Thank you. H.R. 51 commemorates Compost Awareness Week, which is celebrated by the composting councils of the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. This year's theme recognized the important interconnection between healthy soils and water. Composting creates green jobs in organic recycling, agricultural, and landscaping. Composting is also an important method to reduce waste production and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I ask the first roll to be open for co-authors, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Seeing no discussion or debate on this resolution, the first roll will be open for co-authors. Clerk will open the roll. Members wishing to add as co-authors, this is for co-authors on the resolution. Clerk will close the roll. There are 66 co-authors added without objection. We may take a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. File item 119, pass and retain. File item 120, that's AB 2148 by Mr. Holden. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2148 by Assemblymember Holden, an act relating to unmanned aircraft systems.
Mr. Holden, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In presenting Assembly Bill 2148, I will promise not to drone on about the importance of unmanned space aircraft. But this bill provides clear, standardized set of regulations for use of drones on lands controlled by the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Department of Parks and Recreation. Recent amendments remove the drone industry's opposition and reduce federal preemption concerns by better aligning this bill to existing federal law governing drone use in our national parks. This measure will fill in the gaps in federal law to provide consistency for drone users while protecting the wildlife, historic resources, and visitors that inhabit and use our state open space. I respectfully request your aye vote on this drone bill.
Thank you, Mr. Holden. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 51, noes 13. Measure passes. File item 121, AB 2371. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2371 by Assemblymember Frazier, an act relating to taxation.
Mr. Frazier, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. AB 2371 will allow individuals to make a voluntary contribution in excess of their tax liability to the Special Olympics Fund. Contributions to the Special Olympics Fund shall be used to conduct activities of Special Olympics Northern California and Special Olympics Southern California. The Special Olympics provide athletic opportunities to 40,000 children and adults with intellectual disabilities throughout the state, instilling the confidence, self-esteem, and dignity they need to succeed in life. They also inspire people in their communities and elsewhere to open their hearts to a wider world of human talents and potential. AB 2371 will help the Special Olympics Northern California and Southern California expand their athletic opportunities for the numerous athletes that have been unable to participate due to limited resources. I have volunteered at the Games for 11 years and personally seen the benefits of this wonderful organization. Thank you, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Frazier. Mr. Lackey, you're recognized.
Yeah, just real quickly, I would like to formally thank the author for allowing the public the simple pathway to support this empowering program. As a former Special Olympics coach, I could tell you that it's such an inspiring program that I hope everyone in this floor will at least one time take the opportunity to go and support one of these competitions. You will be much a better person just for watching this competition. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lackey. Seeing no additional discussion on the item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. The clerk will close the roll, tally the vote, ayes 68, no 0. Measure passes. File item 122, AB 2385. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 2385 by Assemblymember Jones Sawyer, an act relating to marijuana.
Mr. Jones Sawyer, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. AB 2385 allows Los Angeles-based medical marijuana dispensaries that are in compliance with Proposition D to apply for and receive a state medical marijuana license. Recent amendments clarified that the state licensing authority determination of whether an applicant is in compliance with Proposition D is based on a written or electronic notification provided by the City of Los Angeles to the licensing authority. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Jones Sawyer. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 48, noes 13. Measure passes. File item 123, AB 1708. Clerk will read.
Assembly Bill 1708 by Assemblymember Gonzalez, an act relating to disorderly conduct.
Ms. Gonzalez, you may open.
Good morning. AB 1708 would create a consistent minimum penalty for those who purchase sex and add 1 year to the sentence of a person convicted of felony trafficking of a minor at or near a school. Advocates and policymakers are making great strides regarding sex trafficking victims, but we need to combat the demand for commercial sex, which incentivizes trafficking to happen in the first place. Consistent and consequential penalties will send a strong message that we as a society, despite what we see on TV, are not okay with the continued sexual exploitation of women. It is never a victimless crime when somebody purchases sex. We recognize there is a victim. That means there's a perpetrator. They should be arrested and booked in jail. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote or desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 71, noes 1. Measure passes. File items 124 through 127, pass and retain. On Senate third reading, file item 128, that's SCR 103. Clerk will read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 103 by Senator Leyva and others relative to teen dating and violence prevention.
Ms. Garcia on the resolution.
Thank you. Good morning, Speaker and members. I rise today to present Senate Concurrent Resolution 103, which designates February 2006 as Teen Dating Violence Awareness and Prevention Month. This important resolution encourages all Californians to promote healthy teen relationships and raise awareness about teen dating violence in their communities. Teen dating violence, also known as dating abuse, is a serious and growing problem throughout California. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 10% of high school students have been hit, slapped, or physically hurt on purpose by a boyfriend or girlfriend in the past year. Additionally, according to the American Psychological Association, 1 in 3 teens ages 14 to 20 years of age have experienced dating abuse, and about the same number say they have committed dating abuse themselves. The CDC's Dating Matters Strategies to Promote Healthy Teen Relationships program notes that 1 in 4 adolescents report verbal, emotional, physical, or sexual dating abuse each year. Victims of teen dating violence also have an increased risk for truancy, dropout, teen pregnancy, suicide, eating disorders, and engaging in other harmful behaviors such as using alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. Clearly, dating abuse is a major problem in communities across California, so I am pleased that nearly half of the Senate has joined me in co-authoring this resolution. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. Seeing no discussion or debate on this item, Ms. Garcia, would you like co-authors on the item? First roll will be open for co-authors, members. Clerk will open the roll. This is for co-authors, members, co-authors on the Senate resolution. Clerk will close the roll. There are 64 co-authors added. Without objection, we may take a voice vote on the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. File items 129 through 131 pass and retain. Moving to consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will read the second-day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 1666 by Assemblymember Breaux and others, enacting into local government.
The clerk will open the roll. Members, this is consent calendar. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. All members vote who desire to vote. Clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. Ayes 73, no 0. Consent calendar is adopted. The clerk will read the remaining bills on the second-day consent calendar.
Assembly Bill 1767.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1788.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1789.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1835.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1859.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2032.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2056.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2061.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2097.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2102.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2221.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2226.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2375.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2450.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2497.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2498.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2535.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2549.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2556.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2672.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2707.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2719.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2797.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2801.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2901.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 2906.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Assembly Bill 1675.
Ayes 73, no 0.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 129.
Ayes 73, no 0.
And Senate Concurrent Resolution 104.
Ayes 73, no 0. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Members, a brief announcement. The Assembly's official portrait will be taken during session on Monday, May 23rd at 1 p.m. The Assembly's official portrait will be taken on Monday. The session schedule is as follows. Friday, May 20th, no check-in session, no floor session. Monday, May 23rd, floor session at 1 p.m. Mr. Ting moves and Ms. Waldron seconds that this House stands adjourned until Monday, May 23rd at 1 p.m.